I'm passing by the Chicago police stations, and they really should start getting in the holiday festivities, giving some positive vibe to the officers, and then giving out some positive vibes to the community. So they can stop by here for trick and treat on the 4th of July. Truly. Right here, they should tell them to stop by the Chicago Police Department, come in District 1, and come in for some candy and that. And, getting the kids, familiar with the police. And so they can also, like I said, do a lot of community educational courses, like, talking about inappropriate touch and many other things. So they can do a lot of community awareness courses within the precinct, invite the community to come in and understand, different aspects of law enforcement and, do educational training on rape defense and so on and so forth. Just talking about how to be safe, and they can do things on how to use a taser. Just a training course on how to use a taser appropriately, when to use a taser, if you have mace, when to use mace, when can you use self-defense if somebody's breaking into your resident, what's appropriate to use a gun, and so on. So they can do community awareness courses, especially for community leaders like pastors and priests and even aldermen and others, and they can educate them. Doormen, truly, the doormen working for the building in that. They can do community awareness for them. Invite the doorman in to do some educational classes, and they can do CPR with the fire station, can come over here because they don't have room in the fire station, but the fire department can come over, and I think they have a big room in there, almost positive, because that's where they do the roll and everything. So they can come in there and teach CPR. The fire department can come over and teach CPR and, some first aid and some basic stuff to doormen. You can get certified. And so they can do a lot more things and make themselves more friendly to approach and get over, where people don't feel as threatened by their presence. Bad guys are always going to feel threatened by their presence. But if you get the community area and you integrate, good people will feel comfortable and won't feel that your presence is a deterrent. Meaning to them, they feel, this big brother's overlooking my shoulder and this, force and so on. That's why they have the officer friendly program. And so to get little kids introduced to police and how police can help and how police are there to protect them. So they can get into the holiday spirit. They can do the Christmas tree. They can invite the community leaders over for some eggnog. Truly. Some eggnog at the station and do some safety during the holidays. They can run safety training for retailers and how to spot a shoplifter, what to do, how to call 911 when the shoplifter's in the store, how to document, if you think somebody. Now, it's one thing if somebody sticks something in the pocket, but what true shoplifters, and I'll throw out my friend Kay, who I went in the store and with him. Now, I didn't turn him in, but him and my other friend, they used to live together at Arizona, and they used to go in and do shoplifting at this one grocery store chain. And guess what? This grocery store chain, it went out of business in Tucson. And I don't see it anymore in general. So grocery stores work on thinner margins, and shoplifting hurts grocery stores immensely. Oh, shoplifting is devastating to grocery stores. Shrinkage for grocery stores is devastating. Grocery stores work on thinner margins. So Whole Foods and that works on a little higher margin, but grocery stores like Aldi's and others, shoplifting and spoilage and all that destroys them. They work on very low margin. And that's why a lot of these stores like Dominic's closed down and many others, it wasn't thriving, even with bigger chain, because they work on lower margin. Grocery stores make money on volume. They are a volume store. They want people constantly coming in, constantly shopping. So they make money on volume. They make very low margins. So they can come in and teach them and train their staff what to look for and so on to prevent shrinkage, theft. So they can have Retailer Awareness Week. Truly, the Chicago Police, Retailer Awareness Week. And then when they're doing the 4th of July and all these people are coming down, the police can meet through the district office to the leaders. They can meet at the district office and tell them how they're going to work crowd controlled and that. And then ABC, CBS and that can communicate it out, pumping it out to people coming to Chicago. Go on the website and it's promoting their websites. WGN, ABC, Fox, and on the radio, how they get down, what trains to use. All that will be on our websites. And plus, the link could be to the Aldermanic website. They can put it just on the Aldermanic website, and then as they announce it on their shows, they have the back link, the Alderman's link. Click here for information, and it's on the Alderman site, and it goes from the ABC site to the Alderman site. And if you want to do it, they can lock it in to the ABC site where it opens up within their website. So not necessarily do they have to leave to a remote website. You can open it up, a browser within a browser. If you don't know how to do that, it's possible, because I did it with my website. I didn't want them leaving the other websites in certain things, and so I could lock them in, and it's picture-in-picture like TV, while it's a browser within a browser. It opens up, and so it pushes their browser to the edge. Like you'll see ABC at top, but the rest of the screen will be the Alderman's website. So ABC will still stay at the top, so you can just toggle back to ABC. You check the X, it closes the Alderman's browser, and you're on the ABC website, and you never leave the ABC website. That way, they stay on the ABC page, and this way, they get paid for promoting them, giving out the information to the public as a free resource, getting the public to go through the ABC website to the Alderman's office. So all the Alderman's offices should be on all the news channels' website. Truly. And you can click on any of them and it opens up within the CBS browser, the NBC, or whatever, and you stay on their site. But you can get all the Aldermanic information right there. And then they can have also secondary to Chicago. And then they can have the mayor. So you just hit on ABC, Channel 7, information on Chicago. And it has a drop down, mayor office, alderman offices, events. and it has the link for the event from the Alderman's website. But if you want the general page, it's under Alderman, but the events are under events. That particular page within the Aldermanic website is there. So this way, people use the websites of the aldermen in the city government, even for the business departments, like city zoning offices and all that. It can be on these news channels' website. And so that would drive a lot of traffic to the news channels. And the news channels have the radio sites, and they can put audio clips and podcasts and that under WGN radio. So you have, if they have a separate website, they should have a separate and the same website. So the television and radio should have independent websites, but you can get to the other one through their separate websites. And they can have duplication, because somebody might want to do something on the radio and it's right there, instead of leaving and doing a search and going somewhere else, per se. But again, they can do this, and so they can promote this and information, and then you get the candidates for aldermen and everything. So it says Chicago politics, and you click on Chicago politics, then it says running for first ward alderman, and then it has candidates, and then you can click on the candidate. So they can make this a lot better. And here's ABC Channel 7 right next to ESPN. So, they got it covered up right now. So here's the mobile. But again, they can do this, and the news cameras for the traffic, if you want to see live streaming, you go to the NBC site, say, with Kai, and you can hit traffic and then traffic cameras, and then you can look at their live traffic feeds. Maybe you're in the car and you want to see the live traffic feeds, and they can offer that on Google as well. So you're going on Google, and you're going, and it says NBC live traffic feed available. And you can click on it, and it gives the live traffic feed. I don't know if it's the greatest thing if you're driving, but again, you can see the live traffic feed if you want to. So people will be at home and they're planning, and they're like, okay, 294, and I'm on WGN. I go under traffic and cameras and boom, and then I can hit, as long as the helicopter's in the air, under traffic, cameras, helicopter. And then it can put the prior video below, like the video from 7 p.m. yesterday. The camera was in the air from 7 to 9, and so they can have the archive video if you want to go back and look at the video. I mean, it's showing cars on the road. They're not doing license plate readers, and they can do like Google and blur out the license plates. Truly, they can blur out the license plates. And so they're doing a high-level view, but even if you zoom in and you have and they should have high definition, but like Google, you blur out the license plate. And they can blur out the face as well. They can work with Google to create the software, but it automatically does that. So all you see is the traffic, and you see the cars moving, but you can't see the people or the license plates. So it keeps that information in case somebody wants to spy on somebody with your information. So again, they can have that. It's another way, and they can offer their live feeds, like I said, to the police, Their cameras can be available to the police, their helicopter cameras, and that for their command centers. They can check out what's going on the highway and click in and watch the helicopter feeds from ABC, WGN, and so on. And they act as eyes in the sky. And if they're off and they're still in the air, they can do the police a solid if they want to go over a certain area. But the whole point is the police can just tap into the camera while they're doing their normal thing, so the command center can see what's going on over the different places where the helicopter is flying. So it helps with the city. So, and remember, they work here. Their employees work here, and a safer city is in their best interest. So, again, I don't want to see Erica or Tracy or Diane or Val or Tanya, or I can name so many of them. I don't want to see them get mugged and have a thing like Bruce Wayne, Batman, and they're walking out of the event and they get shot and killed. And so I don't want to see a tragic event happening. So that makes it safe for them walking around and their investigative reporters and that. So the safer the city is, it's safer for their investigative reporters, because the bad guys aren't going to want to do what they do in Colombia. They put the bombs and everything else. So, again, and they should be working with their news stations. I would assume they have news stations in Colombia and that, to figure out how to increase the safety. Because one thing, you're on the bad end and making public awareness, but there are other people that might like to, I guess the radio talk show host in LA where the white supremacist shot him in the parking garage, on the top of the parking garage. Actually, he was on the roof of the parking garage, and he waited for him by the car. So, again, it was a Jewish talk show host. But the funny thing is, why didn't he bring the group on TV? Surely, be fair and balanced. And if you know the guy at the top and you're being fair and balanced on the show, and his members got on the show, and if it's fair and balanced, I'm telling you right now, his people are listening as well. And if he's full of shit, it's going to out him. And so he can get on the show. He can get some airtime that he wouldn't get. And he can put out his platform. And if he's telling an untruth, it's going to backfire on him. And so you can fact check everything. And they know it. They're going on air, and you tell them that, and things are going to be fact-checked. The politicians have it all the time. So they can go on air, and they give them a fair and balance. So it would be better for these individuals like Mark Levin and that, invite a Democrat on and have a fair and balanced conversation every so often. And so bring them on and let them talk for a while, and you make your counterpoints. That's what I loved about, well, now he's gone, but what's the name from Fox? Dang it, not Travis, but who took over for Bill O'Reilly? Tucker Carlson. And he would have them state their points, and he would tell them, I have my researchers and so on, and you state your points, and then I'll have my counterpoints, and we'll have a discussion. We both know what the topic's about. They did their independent research, and they're on air, and Tucker was fair. He did his independent research, and they bring in their point, and he does lots of research on their point, and then he brings them on the show, and he goes through their platform with them, and he gives them airtime and lets them speak, and then he makes his counterpoints. So again, if he would have done this, he would have established a rapport with the person that I disagree with your points of view, but it's an apologetics, like we have Muslims speak to Catholics or Muslims speak to Christians. Let's not do, there's 50,000 Christian religions, so, but I didn't know there was that many, but there is. So the whole point is, it's apologetics. And so you're setting this where a Muslim talk show can have a Christian on. And they do their fair and balance, and they set their points for, getting this discussion, or like between, Israeli TV and the Palestinians have their representative on, and they do a fair and balanced discussion, and they have their dialogue, and people watch it. It's like a town hall discussion, but it's got both sides, not one side. And so they have this town hall discussion, and so they bring them on the air, and they can make the statements about how they feel and why they feel things went certain ways, and then they can make their counterpoints. But you already know the topics, and tell them come prepared, because if they come prepared, it makes a good show, and it makes something to really watch because they got really good points. So we know the topic. We're going to discuss these points, and so stay on topic. I'm the research the points. You bring all your stuff, and then we'll have our debate on philosophy. And so this is how you can create these relationships. And I wish they would have brought Louis Farrakhan on a talk show. I would like him to substantiate his points. So, the leader of Nation of Islam. Truly, I'd like to see him on ABC and have a discussion that's counterpoint. And so it's for the journalist to make the argument. And the journalist can state that this is not my personal view, but I'm going to make the counterpoint for this discussion, and I'm going to bring up opposing facts or opposing issues or opposing beliefs. And so the talk show has the one side and the talk show's the other side. They don't want to be a moderator. Then the talk show host is not featured. So Tucker Carlson does it, and they bring both sides, and he stays on there, and the other person's on there, and they go back and forth. You don't want to do a political debate where they have them on stage and they just ask a question. That's not what you want to do. You want to do where you're one side, and it can be a totally opposite side of your belief. But you're letting people know this is the truth. This is not what I believe. But I am going to make the counterpoints. So, again, and we're going to have a fair and balanced discussion. So I would like to see him substantiate his positions. Truly. Because I want to out these people and put them in front of them, and if their beliefs are so founded in fact and objectivity, I want them on stage, and I want to see the facts. Just like I grew up with the police show, Just the Facts, ma'am, just the facts, Officer Friday on Dragnet. So, again, they can have this, and they can get into these issues, and we can have a fair and open discussion, and we can see about addressing... What the heck? I can't go straight. Okay. we can see about addressing these issues. So lower tension because they have a platform. And what they want is a platform, and you're going to give the counterpoint. So you're going to give them some airtime instead of their platform being blowing up a building, putting a gas bomb in the subway. You can give them this time, and they have to bring their facts and tell them you're going to fact check and your points need to be substantiated. And we can argue there's some debate about how many people, passed away with this or how many people were affected by that. But again, those are things that neither side can prove right now. And you pointed out that the numbers are a little bit oblique, not opaque, but you can't see through. They're not transparent. They don't know them for, it doesn't have small margin of error. And so they can do those things. Oh, the Bank of America Marathon, that's right. So they can do those things, and they can get the airtime to lower tension. And if they could have done that in Israel and had them on, the Palestinians on the show and to the Israeli audience, and then they get other time where an Israeli like Netanyahu can go over and being on Palestinian television and do this. It promotes industry, it promotes business, newspapers, magazines, podcasts. It creates lots of jobs having open and honest discussion. And it's hard-hitting and it's intriguing, and people can get more rooted in the facts of the situation and understand that these are subjective or more emotional feelings, and these are objective. And so, again, quantitative and qualitative. So, again, they can do this, and this will go a long way to lowering tensions, and we don't do this. And we should invite Kim Jong-un from North Korea over onto a show, and he should be able to make his statements on air here, and we're going to check him, and we offer it up to him to come here to speak to the American people, not to the United Nations, but to the American people. And so you guarantee his safety coming and returning, and he can be on a show. Like, I forget who went on the one show. There's a British guy, but he played dirty pool. And you can't do that. But he was with some politician, and he didn't do it right. He sabotaged him and hit him with something that they agreed upon not to talk about. Or the person when he showed up on the show, and then he ambushed him. Just like Tom Selleck was on Rosie O'Donnell, and I was watching the show, and he said nothing about the NRA, or if you want to talk about that, then I can't come on the show. And she said, I won't talk about anything with your membership in the National Rifle Association. And I was watching the show, and she brought up, well, Tom, your membership in the National Rifle Association, and then, I'm anti-gun. And he's like, excuse me, Rosie, but you agreed that you wouldn't bring up the NRA, and I'm sorry, I have to leave. And the show was going, and he got up and he walked right off stage. But you don't do that. So if something comes up in the meantime before they're coming, you can say, well, I'd like to talk about this more current issue, and will you be willing to discuss this? So, walking in the middle of the street, I guess, preparing for, getting run over. So, anyways, so you have this. I call 311 all the time, and they don't do anything. So, I've called for decades, so they don't seem to have a response. I try. So, anyways, they can have this, but you can't ambush them. Tucker Carlson never ambushed them. They know exactly, and he stays on it. He doesn't set them up. They know exactly what's going to be discussed and why they're on the show and so on. And he brings his points, and Tucker does his research. That's a show where I was watching the Asian guy, and he was complaining that America was discriminatory towards Asians. And Tucker said, and he brought out some facts, and then Tucker brought out the facts. Well, let me go to income, let me go to percentage, and you got to watch the show. But he's like, well, yeah, you're right. So how is that discriminatory when you're down the number one income earners? He couldn't substantiate. He didn't do his research on the platform he was talking about. And he got his lunch handed to him, and he shut up. And basically, he was very meek the rest of the show. So, again, the whole point that I'm making is that these people can air these situations, and it can be on local television, and they get these people. It can be Paul Lisco, the political reporter or whatever, and they get them in, and they get the... It's a cop! Why are you beeping? So, anyways, some taxi driver that should go to jail. Illegal use of the horn. So, they should put him away for a public nuisance. Oh yeah, beeping the horn. There's the public nuisance ordinance. And so they can get him for the public nuisance ordinance. And so he can get cited for being a public nuisance. Truly. It's not maybe sound, but it's a public nuisance. And so there's a public nuisance ordinance. You have no justification to beep the horn. And beeping it without proper justification, you become a public nuisance. So this taxi cab driver right here, Flash Cab 1952, should get charged with being a public nuisance. Truly. Like the tailgater behind me, a public nuisance. Aggravated driving as well. Headlight out as well. So they go around breaking lots of laws. So they say they don't assimilate. So they always come up with excuses. So I don't think anyone's been more wrongfully terminated than me. And I don't think anyone in that way have lost so much wrongfully than me. I'm talking wrongfully. Me can go into the Russian billionaire, but he got that in a backdoor deal. So he didn't get it ethically. So, and he lost it unethically. So it came unethically, and he lost it unethically. So in one way, I feel for him, but in another way, I don't. So usually when you get things like a criminal, like people in the mafia, they get power unethically, and they lose power unethically. So, again, the police can do things to, ingratiate themselves to the community and that. And they can bring them on the talk shows every so often and talk about, what they're doing in the community, like Channel 7 and that. But things that they're doing, like, they're, doing the Chicago Marathon. And let's talk about, how the police are, setting up and what routes are in the run and how should I do traffic flow, because the police are in charge of all traffic management. So the police control traffic flow. And so they can come on and talk about that. The marathon's coming up and these are the best way that, traffic flow down this street or that street, or, please be mindful of the barricades and stay a certain distance back from the barricades. Please do not bring any backpacks to the marathon. If you're coming to watch the runners, do not bring backpacks. Things like that. You can bring your signs and everything, roll them up and that, but please don't bring any backpacks. And so, again, they can do certain things of telling them what to come down and, how to be a fan and, what's expected and what the police will not accept during these events and so on and so forth. So they can create this awareness and, help the marathon and do this goodwill so it goes smooth and the runners can do it and so on. And so all this good stuff can happen. And Shifting Gears, the new show, looking forward to it. So anyways, we can do so much better. We can always get better. We can always get worse, but I want us to keep on working on getting better and keep on getting better and better and better and better. God's commandment, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Just focusing on getting better and better and better and better. So again, do the right thing. Here's the Chicago. Is he going to blow the stop sign? Blows the stop sign, a rolling stop sign. So again, we can get better with red light cameras, stop sign, cameras. So if they blow the stop sign, they get it. It's not only for red lights, it can be used for stop signs as well. So I believe in punishment, forcing people to be better, even if they don't want to be better. Here's all the black churches. And, all the black people left here. So how do they get their members? Because they're all over the place. And so, again, that's a whole different topic. Because they have to convert. They have a lot of local congregation in these buildings and that. They don't have any more, so then they convert the church. And their congregation moves to majority white people. So it doesn't have to stay with that congregation. If the congregation moves and the demographics change, then the church can change too if they want. If they don't want, then people are going to have to come from further distances to it. But again, that's fine as well. I don't want the church to shut down because the demographics change. So either they get people to travel further, or they do what? They change their demographics and they get a white pastor added to the black pastors. Like my Korean churches. Both Lakeview had Aaron. He was a white pastor. And NCPC had Chad. He was a white pastor. And then Jana Holiday, she ran, stuff. She was a white girl who ran things for Lakeview. She ran the praise ministry and that. Now, Herb ran the praise ministry from organizing everything else, but Jana ran, the budgets and all kinds of other stuff. So she was a white girl. So I worked in these Asian churches, and they had white pastors and white staff members. So again, and then 2 black people. One Todd, he was at Lakeview, and then one black female. Todd was a male, he was at Lakeview, and Tina was one black female at NCPC. So they were the 2 black people, one male, one female. And they didn't have any black people in their staff, but again, maybe they can have a black pastor. I don't know, maybe if things get better. But anyways, there can be discussions, but I'm for the platonic relationship. And so they can be friends. But that being said, again, we can discuss this issue, but I'll give you the disparity is great between bone density and other things, and not really good to get an Asian woman pregnant from a black male. Whites are the tweenies. They're between the blacks and between the blacks and the Asians, the tweenie. So you can go up, you can go down, you in the middle. So you're more flexible, per se. That's why white women dated black guys and they had kids. But again, that shouldn't be really the core. This is a very remote satellite. But anyways, they can do this, but the disparity is significantly great. And that puts a lot of strain on an Asian female with the child. Even if the child is part Asian, it puts a lot more strain on the child. And so I'll go over here, but I'll post this on, I'm done, I'll post this on YouTube.